class today is all about the hips. This is really the area that creates so much problems. We're sitting down all the time, and if we have out of line hips, we end up swaying to the side. As you can imagine, shoulder, neck, spine, knees all create a problem. So hips are really important, and it's really important as well for you to start to notice how your hips are, whether you do sway from side to side. Are you using your glutes to support those hips as well? So Hatha, if you haven't done it, it's a more stagnant form of our yoga practice rather than the flow. So we're not moving with our breath, we're holding positions for a longer period of time and really starting to assess, okay, right, if I just move a little bit like this, how does that feel? Does this feel more aligned for my body? What if I squeeze my glutes? Actually, 1 second, I'm not squeezing my glutes. So it gives you time to break down the pose. And there's a phrase that goes along with our Hatha: until you want to get out the pose has not started. So I want to leave you with that. Really get into your mind, understand that we're not going to be moving at a fast pace, and you need to become one with your body. So it's all to do with your hips. Grab a block because that's going to be helpful as well. We're going to be starting off a little bit differently today. Find a wall or a door in my case. Come all the way down so that you are probably about ½ meter away from the door or the wall. Put your feet up onto it so that they are at knee height and your feet are pointing straight up. So in number 11, completely flat, all 4 corners of the feet, so the toes are working, the big toes are working as much as the little toes. Now assess here already, is the whole of your back on the ground? If the whole of the back isn't on the ground, you may just want to take the bum further away from the door. Or you might want to play around with taking the bum closer to the door, closer to the wall. But when your knees start to come over the hips, so closer to your head, that's when your tailbone will start to lift off. So just assess, are you completely flat? Grab your block, place your block so lengthways, so the shortest side is facing your head, in between your knees. So this makes your knees hips width apart, makes your knees face straight up. Now drive your knees into the block and settle your hips down. This is going to allow both hips to start to sink down to the ground equally, allowing us to really work with aligned hips throughout the rest of our practice. No point starting if we're already starting off on the wrong foot. So relax here, keep that energy driving through the knees. Make sure the 4 corners of the feet are still grounded to the mat. Make sure the 4 corners of the feet are still grounded to the wall, not to the door. Starting to feel those hips sink down. Allow that natural curve of your spine to just be. Keep working that energy in towards the block. Feeling those inner thighs engaging. Three more rounds of breath. Final round for me, big inhale. Exhale, take that block away. Super slowly hug the knees into the chest. Just taking that energy back towards us. Rolling all the way over so you can come up to kneeling now. Another awkward one to get into. Doing a really big quad stretch, because if our quads aren't stretched, our hip flexors are really tight. So taking our right leg forward, bending up our back leg, taking that left knee towards the wall, and then coming up I'm really lucky I've got these 2 bits of here that I can stay on. If not, you can place the hands onto the thighs or obviously onto your blocks. Now assess whether you need to come a little bit forward, so walk this right foot forward so you don't have such a deep quad stretch, or you can keep pushing that weight back, maybe walk this right foot back. Now I do have quite open hip flexors and quite open quads, so for me, I can keep like this and not feel discomfort. I can feel a nice stretch, but it's not pain, it's just a stretch. Breathe here. Remember that breath is going to allow the muscles to relax, and maybe you can come into it a little bit deeper, but really, really slowly. If this is a funny one for your knee, then you can absolutely take this lying down, completely lying on your stomach, and then just bend up your left leg, grab it with your hand and pull that heel towards your glutes, exactly the same. Final inhale. Exhale, slowly come out of this, nice and awkwardly, and then switching on to the other side. So left leg forward, take that right knee towards the wall, and then start to come up, ease yourself into it. Now make sure that knee is still directly down, you're not swinging out to the side, because I can feel my right heel wanting to go outwards rather than that heel just staying directly behind my bum. So I'm just going to come out of this stretch a little bit. It would mean that my quads are just a bit too tight, and I'm starting to compromise, coming to that external rotation. Breathing here. Trying to smile, something that I always forget to do. Final inhale. Exhale all the way down. Coming out of that stretch. Coming to the front of our mat. Just rolling over those toes so that we're in a forward fold. Feet as wide or wider than the hips. Completely folding over. Bending the knees as much as you need to rest your chest onto your thighs. Hanging your head. Shaking, nodding, releasing all of that tension in your neck. Allowing it to hang heavier. Coming back to stillness when you're ready. And inhaling, rolling all the way up. Super, super slowly, head being the last thing to come up. Really nice. Top of the mat if you're not already there. You can have your feet hips width distance apart, making sure the feet are straight forward, or toes and heels. Coming into our high lunge, taking our right leg back first. So you're inhaling, your hands are going up. At the same time your hands are going up, you're stepping this right leg straight back. So we want our hips in line. So if you want to check, place your hands onto your hips. And then maybe just sway your hips from side to side, so you can feel, okay, right, this way my right hip's dipping down, this way my left hip's dipping down, and getting to that point where both hips are square, the fronts of the hips are pointing directly to the front of the mat. And you're bending through this back leg, you're not straightening, because that's going to create this extra curve. You're probably going to start flaring these ribs out. So you want to think about the ribs sucking back in, and feeling nice and tall and lifted. The other thing, these feet almost feel like they're pulling towards one another, because if you don't, that energy just sinks down and you don't really do anything. But as soon as you think, okay, squeeze up, you activate those legs, and that helps you have this hold here. Hands all the way up. Staying here. Keep thinking about those hips, because they're going to probably try to keep going out of line, so you might just want to take your hands back. Yep, okay, they are in line. Core is engaged. Now remember, the pose doesn't start until you want to get out of it. Make sure both glutes are engaged, so maybe poke them. Yeah, okay, they're working. The front glute is keeping me level. This back glute is keeping that back leg working, driving that heel outwards. Final inhale. Exhale all the way to the front. Really good job. Okay, getting ready for the other side. Big inhale, left leg straight back, hands all the way up. Settle in, maybe you want to assess again here. Okay, sway my hips. Right, I understand what it's like to be unaligned. Now getting them in line, both of my hips are facing directly forward. My back leg is bent. My core is engaged and my glutes are firing. And I'm breathing and I'm smiling. Maybe you sink down to that front leg a little bit more. Not essential. That core is going to want to switch off, so you're going to have to keep giving yourself a little reminder. Same with the glutes. Inhale all the way up. Good job. Really, really nice. Okay, this time coming into our chair pose. And I want everybody to grab their blocks or your kitchen roll, whatever you're using. And we're going to be putting it through this way, which we'll be talking more about in our mobility class. But basically, it makes sure that we keep our feet parallel and it stops us knocking our knees in, because quite a lot of the time people will go like this and then knock the knees. The knees are meant to go forwards and backwards, not side to side. So block here makes us think about these thighs working, pulling that energy into the blocks and grounding through all four corners of the feet rather than rolling to the outside. So it forces you to put weight into that big toe as well as that little toe. Okay, front of the mat. Think about drawing everything in. Take those feet as close as they can. When you're ready, big inhale, start to sink the bottom down, hands go up. Now you can absolutely have a slight curve in this back, but you need to try and keep lifted in this upper back. Core is engaged. Take a look down. Can you see your toes? If you can't see your toes, you'll need to take the weight back slightly. That means taking the weight into your heels. You can try this by lifting up the toes, and you may start to wobble around, but at least you start to get a feel of where that weight is meant to be. Keep those thighs working. Make sure the toe, the big toe, is grounding. Inhale all the way back up. We're going to do that 2 more times. Inhale, sit down, hands up. Keep thinking about that inner arch of the foot, feeling nice and stable, supporting that leg. Thighs are working. Make sure those ribs are contained and the core is engaged. Final inhale. Exhale all the way up. Good job. Final time. Prepare yourself. Inhale, hands all the way up, sink down. Now if you want to, this time, remove the block. And keep thinking that that block is there, so don't allow those knees to drop inwards. Keep those knees facing straight forwards. And you can even take your toes together and your heels just slightly apart, and feel again the connection of those thighs and the knees together. Now the knees together now is okay because you've got the support of the thighs there and they're not knocking in midair. Still breathing here. Core is still engaged and you're still smiling. Final inhale. Exhale, come all the way up. Good job. Expanding that breath through the chest. Okay, coming into a wide leg fold now, grabbing your block to take it with you. Stepping our right foot straight back. Now quite a decent amount of distance here. The block just place it to the side for now, we will be using it in the centre. Ever so slightly pigeon toe the toes in. We just don't want them facing out. Now, hands onto your hips, and you can place the thumbs either way, whichever feels good for you. Activate these thighs, so pull up the knees before we go anywhere. Inhale, feel like your chest is pulling up to the ceiling. And on your exhale, use these hands to push your bum out. So I'll show you from the side. Big inhale, gaze up. And exhale, I'm pushing my hips back literally with my hands so that my hips start to tip and I lean with my chest rather than with my shoulders. So inhale, look up. Exhale, fold from the hips, leading with the chest. Wherever you get to, maybe you just want to take your hands down. This is enough for you to stay here. You want the weight in your toes. You want the quads to be engaged, so you're pulling those knees up to activate them. Doing this, it works with the hamstrings to relax the hamstrings, and obviously the hamstrings here are getting a really good old stretch. Now you stay here, or maybe you start to take those elbows, bending the elbows, taking that gaze further down, making sure at all times you're leading with the chest rather than your shoulders, and you're keeping on feeling like that movement is coming from the hips. I always think about sticking my bum out, that helps me get down. Weight is still in the toes, and you're still breathing. Final inhale and exhale. Inhale, come back up to halfway or not already there, so hands planted on the ground. Grab your block, place it underneath your face. Take your left hand directly on top of the block so everything is directly under the face. Squaring the hips again. So place your hand on top of that tailbone. Big inhale, lengthen the crown of the head towards me, so towards the right side of the mat, further away. And on your exhale, start to twist, but only from your torso. Keep your hips squared, both hip bones facing the ground. There is going to be such a temptation to dip this left hip. Keep those thighs engaged. When you think you've got it, you can always take that right hand up into that twist. Gaze up towards that right hand, make sure the weight is in the toes, the legs are still working, that core is still working, and that oblique is spinning you round. Maybe just check those hips every now and then. Final inhale, exhale all the way down, good job. Pedal through the feet, straightening and bending those legs, getting ready for the other side. Right hand on the block directly under your face. Left hand onto that tailbone. Big inhale, lengthen the crown of the head. And on your exhale, start to twist that torso round to the left using the right obliques. Thighs are engaged, the knees are pulling up. When you feel ready, take that left hand up. Remembering to breathe. Final inhale, exhale, come all the way down. Now this time, take the feet all the way in, nice and slowly. We're coming all the way down to seated, so however you get there. Coming into our butterfly, so soles of the feet together, knees knocking out. Block could be handy again here. You might want 2 blocks under your knees just to feel a bit more supported if they feel a bit like they're flailing around in midair. And you can always take the heels slightly further away from your groin. That's going to take the stretch out of it a little bit. Again, leading with the chest like we did, tipping forward with that pelvis, gripping onto either the underneath of the feet, the ankles, the calves. Big inhale, pull the chest through. And on your exhale, leading with your chest, sticking that bum out and folding at the hips exactly like we did at that wide fold. Start to lean forward. Only as much as you can by keeping this straight back. Every inhale, crown goes longer. Every exhale, see if you can fold ever so slightly more. Your elbows can come to the inside of those legs to draw those knees further down. Inhale, come all the way back up. Really nice. Taking that left leg long, right leg to the inner thigh. Now, if you feel like you need to sit on a block, grab your block and place it under that seated bum cheek, and maybe another one under that knee, because that knee is going to now be lifted off the ground a little bit more. So we want to keep nice and lifted rather than slumped. Okay, exactly the same principle as we've been doing, but this time this knee is out and we're folding over forward again. So inhale, chest pulls through, folding at the hips. Exhale. Keeping the toes flexed, gazing towards the big toe or just past the big toe, because gazing at the shin is going to cause you to fold at those shoulders, and we want to keep a nice open chest here. Keeping this right knee drawing down to the ground, and absolutely a micro bend in that knee is fine. Every inhale, think about lengthening, and every exhale, think about sinking further down. Inhale super slowly all the way up. Switching over to the other side, just give that knee a helping hand. On to the other side. Remember, if you need a block under that right bum cheek. Big inhale, lift up. Exhale, crawl forward, keeping a really nice proud chest. That gaze straight over the big toe to keep the chest open. Your breath is super powerful here. If you haven't already noticed, it's going to help you calm down, help those muscles relax, because you're not sending that stress, that fight or flight message to them. You're sending the message that this is okay, this is good for my body, I'm meant to be here in this stretch. Inhale, lengthen the crown. Exhale, see if you can fold from the hips a little bit more. Inhale, come all the way up, super slowly, really nice. Knee all the way in. Coming into a shoelace now. Now you may want to straighten this under leg. I'll show you first what we're doing. So we're taking the right leg up and over. Left leg is under, heel towards the bum cheek. But if that's too much, take this left leg long, exactly the same. We want both of our bum cheeks planted to the ground. So again, this is where a block's handy. You may be lifting up this right bum cheek so you can put one underneath your left so you can start to feel level again. Inhale, lift. Exhale, completely fold over this time. So completely different than before. We're rounding through our back now. What you can always do, if you have a spare block or a cushion, anything near you, you can always put that on top of your knee. So you can rest your forehead that way. So you can feel relaxed here rather than feeling like you're a million miles away from that knee and it's uncomfortable. So you feel a nice stretch down the outer hip of that right side. And also that left if you've got that heel tucked under. Really allow the whole of your body to sink further down, further away from each other. That head pushing everything down, being really heavy, that driving force. Inhale, slowly roll all the way up. Switching over to the other side, nice and slowly. Now both sides could be different, so you may want to straighten that right leg this time, or you feel like it's okay. Assess whether this left bum cheek is too much off the ground, and to even it out you might want to put a block underneath that, right? Inhale, think about lifting, and on the exhale completely fold over, resting that forehead on the knee or on a block. Final inhale and exhale. Roll all the way back up, completely uncross. Rolling all the way down to your back now. Really slowly get there. Coming into a supine twist, but really gentle. Knees are bent up, and you simply drop both of your knees over to the right. Take the left hand over to the left and gaze over to the left. To take it up a little bit, if you want, you can place the right foot on top of that left thigh to keep pulling that left thigh, that left knee down. Inhale up and over to the other side, right arm long. Inhale, knees back up. Give those knees a nice hug into the chest. And when you're ready, coming into your Shavasana, legs out long, as wide or wider than the mat, feet whole, falling out to the side. Hands away from the body, palms facing up, closing down the eyes. Feeling those hips fully relaxing. Feeling like they have done some work, and starting to really notice and learn about how much your hips are uneven throughout the day. And see if there's anything that you can do to prevent that, or at least encourage yourself to put in some exercises to help that alignment. Feel a wave of relaxation all the way from the top of the head, surging down the body to the feet, crashing, and coming all the way back up to the head. Belly rising and falling. Coming into a really big stretch, fingers and toes as far away from one another as possible. Bending up the knees, rolling over to one side, bicep as a pillow. And pushing all the way up to seated. Hands onto the thighs, palms facing up. Just allow all of that movement in the hips to settle. And be wary that we hold a lot of emotions in our hips. I don't want to scare you, but be gentle with yourself tonight and be gentle with those around you. because this could end up releasing some of those emotions. And if you do, maybe just take a moment to say, hey, do you know what, how long have I been holding that bottled up? And now my hips feel so relaxed. And I just needed to vent. Hands to heart center. Bow the chin to the chest, thumbs to the third eye. Really, really good job, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Coming to the end of the session. Hands away from the eyes and blink the eyes open.